Hey guys, Steve here from Bloom Audio. German hi-fi brand Beyerdynamic is best known for their over-ear headphones. But a few years ago, they released the Xelento IEM to some acclaim. Can the new second generation Xelento take their IEM game to the next level? The Xelento series features two models, the Xelento Wireless and Xelento Remote. The Xelento Wireless isn't a true wireless. It's one with a cable that connects the two IEMs that has the Bluetooth built into that cable. The Xelento Remote has a standard cable with volume control and a mic built into the main cable. It also comes with a second cable for the second generation for a 4.4 millimeter balance connection as well. Now, the IEMs themselves are the same for both, so some of this will apply to either version, but we like wires over here, so we're reviewing the Xelento Remote version with the cable. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. When it comes to an unboxing, it's the little things like the design and the quality of the materials that makes all the difference. And Beyerdynamic doesn't disappoint here. So full disclosure, I've already opened this and played with this and all that. And so some of these things will not be in new condition. The first thing is these flaps open for the reveal here. Get a close up. Those. So that's Xelento Remote itself. Inside, got the information card. This is the 3.5 millimeter cable and the 4.4 millimeter cable. Yeah, 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter cables go along with that. We'll take a closer look. There's some extra stuff in here: cleaning cloth, shirt clips. Under here you have the ear tips. And if you'll notice, this is like a special design specifically for Xelento Remote. And I actually ended up using these for most of my listening. Typically I use spin fits, but I switched to these. And then also, Comply foam. Pretty industry standard there. Over here, got the case. Nice design there, and various quick start guide, certificate of authenticity, all this extra little bits of stuff. So let's take a look at the cables and the IEM themselves. So in terms of the cable, it's a fairly thin design. It's a very nice looking cable. Just not, that doesn't have, the sort of softness, has a bit of memory to it, but definitely a nice cable overall. And then for this version, you can see it has the remote on there, which gives you the volume up, volume down, and muting. Now, I tested this with a few, audiophile devices. Doesn't really work with much. So, that's going to be something you'll use with your phone, not with your digital audio player. The IEMs themselves, again, Beyerdynamic is positioning these as, basically almost being a piece of jewelry, and they definitely nail that with the design on the IEMs themselves. Inside, you've got a single dynamic driver. It's a Tesla 11 driver, I believe they call it. Vented here on the faceplate. Really nice design, really high quality unboxing experience, and really sort of gives you that high-end luxury feeling. Beyerdynamic's most famous product is probably the DT990 Pro. just like a reference-tuned headphone known for really incisive, revealing treble. Xelento IEMs are kind of on the other end of the spectrum with a more consumer-oriented sound. But some felt the original Xelento lost some detail for the sake of musicality. And the second generation Xelento aims to improve on that and give you a better balance between the detail and the fun. The overall tuning is what I'd probably describe as like a bass-boosted Harman neutral. So you do have a good big bass shelf with some extension and some lift from the mid bass into the sub bass. So you get a lot of punch in the mid bass and then that tight impact along with some of that low end rumble in the sub bass as well. But the bleed is pretty well controlled. So there's some coloration of the mids, but really strong detail and texture. I think it's more of a euphonic sort of coloration that a lot of people are going to love, rather than one that results in bloat and losing detail there in that lower mid-range. The mids and treble feel largely neutral once you account for that boost in the bass. So there is still good thickness in the mids, pretty good vocal presence overall, because you do have lift into that upper sort of presence range, the upper mids into the lower treble is stronger. And then there's some roll off into the upper treble. So overall, the treble characteristic is somewhat smooth. While the mids are, again, they're somewhat reduced, but largely provide good detail and performance. And again, the timbre is slightly warm, but it's largely feels neutral without comparing it to a true neutral timbre there, which makes it really do well with a lot of acoustic type music, whether it's solo acoustic guitar or even piano music. I really enjoyed Xelento's slightly warm presentation. The stereo image presentation is solid. The soundstage, moderate width, but good depth, height, and a good sense of three-dimensionality in that. With the imaging, it provides good positioning, and again, good positioning in terms of front to back and side to side in that whole sound field. But there's a little bit stronger cohesion here in that where you get the position, but also a really strong sense of the blending in between each instrument, the blendings of sound, and not so much of that super vivid holographic image presentation you get in some IEMs. For comparison, we brought in the Campfire Audio Andromeda. This is the classic version is what I used in my listening tests, not the 2020 version. And this is still one of my favorite IEMs and something I give a really strong recommendation for in this price point for some of its characteristics. So the question I want to ask is, while there's some strong contrast here, can I give Xelento the same kind of recommendation I would give for Andromeda? In terms of the design and build, both offer top-notch quality with just really striking visual design that also stands out, as a lot of IEMs in this price range have the resin finish. These are, a unique shells on both of them. I really like the green, angular Andromeda look, but I feel like this maybe has a little bit more of that mass market appeal with this simple silver sort of jewelry-like look that Beyerdynamic was going for with these. The Xelento is also incredibly comfortable. I've never had issues with Andromeda, but a lot of people don't really like the sort of sharp edges. Xelento is a little lighter, softer, smoother, and overall just a little bit more comfortable. In terms of the sound, there's some similar ideas behind Andromeda and Xelento's sound, but overall different execution and different focus there. So while Xelento is a sort of bass-boosted Harman neutral, Andromeda is closer to more of a true neutral, but just sweetened up a little bit. So there's a little bit of that mid-range taken out near sort of the true mid-range, that like 1 to 2K. And then there's a little bit of extra mid bass in there that gives a little bit of warmth, though Andromeda's timbre is less warm than Xelento, and a little bit of extra punch there in the mid bass. But Andromeda doesn't have that same kind of extension into the sub bass that Xelento has. Overall, Andromeda's mid-range is stronger than Xelento's, but I was impressed in listening to the sort of the textures of instruments, the bowing of a cello, the sort of air in a flute, cymbals, other things, across the whole spectrum. I was actually impressed considering the way that the bass is emphasized in Xelento, how competitive it was with the Andromeda in terms of the delivery of that detail and texture in the instruments. I would still give Andromeda a small edge there, but Xelento definitely held its own. And then in the imaging, again, where I mentioned Xelento is more of a sort of cohesive, a lot of blending in the space between the positions of each instrument. Andromeda is more holographic, where you get a stronger sense of separation between each instrument. And again, that can be somewhat of a matter of preference. I know a lot of people do prefer that dynamic driver sound. Feels a little bit more speaker-like, where Andromeda in a lot of ways has that it's an IEM characteristic of that holographic separation of instruments in the image. Overall, there's some pretty strong differences between the two, and a lot of it is going to come down to what genres you listen to and what you're looking for in that music. A large ensemble, sort of classical orchestra, you're going to get better separation and a more coherent sound out of Andromeda there, but Xelento is going to give you that more powerful, sort of immersive low end. So again, depending on exactly what you're listening to, if you're listening to Beethoven, Andromeda's probably got the edge, but if you're listening to Hans Zimmer, Xelento might be preferred for some people just for that engagement factor with the music. Well, it may not be the sound you'd expect from Beyerdynamic. The second generation Xelento still demonstrates their commitment to sound quality and detail in all their products. When you add in the aesthetics and the ergonomics, and Xelento really is a product that combines both luxury and high-end audio in an IEM. Thanks for watching. Check out Xelento and a lot of other great products at bloomaudio.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more hi-fi personal audio content.